Hello and welcome to another video, and this time it's a character's guide, one of those that I haven't been doing for quite some time because I was very busy with a lot of things in real life, but now I can start doing a little bit more of these ones. And as you can see today, the character's guide is about Sebas, the Iron Butler. Now, first thing I have to clarify with Sebas here is that as you can see right here, uh, here it is. My Sebas is not maxed out. Sebas is just 4 stars with 20k combat power and doesn't have his exclusive arc light. And yes, I have him level 100, but his skills are not max level. Still, I have been playing this game for a decent amount of time, and I had found numerous enemies using Sebas in different teams and compositions. And I had also been playing with Sebas because when I got, every time I get a new character that, it's one from Nazarick or that I want to try, I play some matches with those characters, I read the skills, I test different teams and so I know what will be nice to play with this character. Even if you may not believe me because this character is not maxed out, so it means that I'm not using him constantly, I still know how to play this character and how to upgrade him and all of that. Now that I have clarified that, I'm gonna be talking about all the you know aspects about his stats, his skills, teams compositions, recommendations, relics, and awakening levels about him. Only thing I might not be talking about too much is the stars, and that's it. So once that I have said that, I can now start, and we can see the most obvious things. Sebas is a warrior class character, and the game classifies him as a single and burst character that doesn't have a third classification like all the other characters in the game. But if it were to me, I will put there either assist or chase character because this character can do both. Not constantly both, but he can perform one assist and then one chase or vice versa. Now, going with the basic attributes, we can see that he is horrible at speed. He has only one C and is on speed. That means this is a very slow character, and that means that early on the game is not much of a problem. Even when you get to level 60, 70 is not much of a problem. But once you get to the late game stages, the levels, the different events, and even go to the multiplayer against high level characters with players with high level accounts, that C on the speed is gonna be very problematic against meta team characters and so. Now, he has B on magical defense. That means that he is a little bit weak there. Honestly, it's average, but if you're facing a full magical damage team, Sebas is gonna struggle there. And he has triple A, one on physical defense, one on attack, and one on health or HP. That is kind of expected because he's a warrior. Warriors are mostly with multiple A's on the basic attributes that are usually between their defense and offensive capabilities. So that is kind of like expected to me. Now, quickly going to the accessories, you can see that at the tier level 3, you're gonna gain 20% counter rate. That is a chance that Sebas has to act out of his turn and attack one enemy if that enemy made damage or did damage to him during his turn. So it's, as the name says, a counter attack. At tier level 6, he's gonna gain 10% more HP, and tier level 9, he's gonna have 9% damage boost. Sorry, 5% damage boost. That is a boost to all kinds of damage, so it's incredibly good because it's gonna increase his normal attacks, his skill damage, his assist, his chase damage, everything. Now, going to the more important stuff, the skills of Sebas. As you can see, he is not maxed out. As I said before, you can see here how many levels I'm missing to max him out. But this is more than enough to show the skills because the text is still here. Now, I'm gonna start with the basic attack. The key punch or Kwai punch is basically physical damage that is equal to 105% of his attack and can go all the way to 120%. It is not a lot, but it's not bad. It's like normal damage, even at level 5. so don't worry there. And depending on the level of the skill, from level 1 to level 4, he's gonna have or 30 or 50% basic chance to inflict defense down on the enemy for 2 rounds. And defense down decreases the enemy defense by 30%, but that is the physical defense, not the magical defense. So keep that in mind. And that is all. It's just a basic attack that does physical damage and has a chance to lower the enemy physical defense. But the defense down only applies after the punch. It's not like, for example, the limited nave that before doing the damage lowers the enemy defense and then does the damage. Now Sebas is the other way around. He first does the damage and then he has the chance to apply the defense down, and sorry for that. And he has a chance of applying defense down and lowering the enemy defense for the next attacks from either his own teammates or himself. Now I'm gonna go with the passive, the Iron Butler, just like his title. He's gonna gain vigor stacks upon hitting a target, 2 vigor stacks for hit, and can be stacked up to 12 times. And what is vigor? It is right here. Each point of vigor increases the attack by 2% and nullifies 2% of defense of the target, and the effect cannot be dispelled. So that means that if something like Pandora's Actor Ultimate or Anniversary Albedo Basic Attack or Ultimate hits Sebas, they cannot take away this buff from him. Also, the ally units, when they are damaged by enemy attacks, have a 50% fixed chance. That means that is almost guaranteed. Is fixed chance is not influenced by effect precision and effect resistance like basic chance. So this is almost guaranteed. When the enemies are attacked by enemies, sorry, when the allies get damaged by enemy attacks, they have a 50% fixed chance to gain 1 vigor stack. This doesn't explain it quite well because it says like they have the chance to gain, like if your allies gain the stack, but no, this stack is for Sebas. So if your allies get attacked, there is a chance that Sebas is gonna have 1 extra vigor stack, and that can be up to a maximum of 2 per action. That is for things like area of effect attacks, like Idol Shelter Ultimate hits all the enemy team. Well, only 2 vigor stacks can be given up at max. Also, when some ally of Sebas attacks an inactive target for in a basic attack or on a skill attack, in a turn, not on out of turn action like a counter or an assist, they can trigger 1 chase from Sebas that is going to use the basic attack. And what is an inactive enemy or target? Those are the enemies that are frozen, like the ones that you can live with Sariusu's skills, the enemies that are stunned, like with, for example, Seshi Ultimate or SR Yuri Ultimate, and the enemies that are also under taunt effect, like from the Ultimate of Albedo, but doesn't count the enemies that are silenced. So keep that in mind. And that means that if you can stun 1 enemy with, for example, SR Yuri Ultimate, and then you have another turn with another character, a second one, and that one attacks the enemy that is stunned, he has a chance to trigger a chase from Sebas. And he's gonna use the basic attack, and when he uses the basic attack, he's gonna have a chance to inflict defense down, and he's gonna do a little bit of extra damage depending on the amount of vigor stacks that Sebas has at the time. And not only that, but when a member of the pleiades attacks, Sebas is gonna do an assist attack that can happen only once per round. And you can see here what are the pleiades members. Includes all versions of Yuri, Lupus Regina, Nave, Cicera, Entoma's Solution, Sebas himself, and Pestonia. That means that if any of those characters are on the screen on your team and they attack, they are gonna trigger Sebas to do an assist attack also with the Kwai Punch, the basic attack, and do, a little bit more of damage. And there's a special interaction where if the SR Yuri is on the team and she attacks, she has 50% chance that she's gonna trigger an assist from Sebas that is gonna do extra damage based on Yuri defense and a percentage of Yuri defense. And he's always gonna be the priority on Yuri's list. Like Yuri can trigger an assist from any of the players in the game, the SR Yuri I mean, But if Sebas is also on the team, as well as other players, Sebas is always going to be the priority, and he's always going to be the one doing the assist, and not other players. Unless Sebas dies, of course. And if you're also another thing that I have to say, if you're thinking or wondering about these two interactions, these are separate interactions. Like you can have one Pleiade member triggering Sebas assist on one enemy, and even if you have another Pleiade attacking an inactive target, Sebas is still gonna have the chance to use chase on that target because are two different actions. One is an assist attack, and the other is a chase attack. That for all purposes, in the practical sense, they're basically the same, except that they can be buffed with different stats from like Momon passive or Momon captain skill and so. But at the end of the day, they're almost the basic thing, the same thing. The character is gonna jump in, do a basic attack to the enemy in question that was targeted by the ally, and go back to his place. So that's gonna be it. Also, Sebas can normally at 3 stars have only 10 Vigor stacks, but at 4 stars, he's gonna have a maximum of 12 stacks on Vigor. And at 6 stars, that means when you're maxing the character, Vigor can be stacked to a maximum of 14 stacks instead of 12. And the attacks on control targets, the ones that are stunned, that are frozen, and so, are gonna trigger one additional chase using the basic attack. So he can do 2 chases at the max number of stars. Also, if you upgrade this skill, you see that he gains Vigor upon hitting a target. So he is gonna gain Vigor when he hits enemy targets and when your allies get damage. Also, when he's at max level on the Iron Butler passive skill, he's gonna have the advantage. That means something that gets applied immediately as soon as the game starts, before anyone even has a turn to move. And he's gonna start with 2 Vigor stacks, so it's gonna be easier for him to stack it up. And at level 4, you can see that the allies have 100% fixed chance to gain Vigor stacks when they are attacked. So if you want to max this character, you have to play all around the Vigor, and that implies that you are not gonna be making use of like invulnerabilities, because that is gonna avoid your allies getting attacked, and they're not gonna gain the Vigor stack for Sebas. So you have to play carefully between receiving damage and doing damage, so you stack up the maximum amount of Vigor before you attack. Now, the Burst Punch, the first real active skill, is another skill that does physical damage based on his attack, can go from 143% to 170%, which is nice. It's a little bit more about the average, I think. It's like 10% more damage. And at max level, when he hits the target, he's gonna gain 3 Vigor stacks, which is a very decent amount. And it's just that. It's a very simple skill, and that skill gets affected by Vigor. So if you have a high amount of stacks on Vigor, he's gonna do even more damage and nullifies parts of the enemy defense. And now we go to the ultimate skill. The ultimate is also physical damage that at level 1 is like 200% attack, then goes to 230% of his attack, and at max level goes to 250% of his attack. On this skill, Sebas consumes all his Vigor stacks, and every Vigor stack uh, gives him an additional 15% attack to his ultimate damage. But there is the drawback that as soon as the game starts, Sebas has a cooldown of 1 round on the ultimate, so he doesn't have the chance like other characters in the game that he can throw the ultimate as soon as the game starts and he gets a turn. No, he at least has to wait 1 turn, unless you get to level 5 of the skill. That is that the skill is gonna skip the cooldowns when consumes over 8 Vigor stacks at a time. So if you have 8 or more stacks of Vigor by the time that Sebas gets the first turn, that is a little bit hard to get, but can be done, he doesn't have to wait the cooldown for his ultimate. But if you have 7 or less, you have to wait at least 1 cooldown round or upgrade the skill. If you upgrade the skill, you can also throw it, but there's still the drawback that if you want to spam the ultimate of Sebas as soon as he gets his first turn, he might not do as much damage as he is going to be able to normally, because he won't have the max amount of Vigor. So ideally, you first use the Burst Punch and make him do an assist and a chase before you throw his ultimate. And at 5 stars, you see the upgrade here that when his HP is above 70%, his ultimate is gonna deal 25% higher damage. So if we combine that, you can see that it's gonna be 250% attack as physical damage on his ultimate, plus the vigor can be stacked up 12 times, and if each vigor stack gives 15%, that means that he's gonna have like an extra 180% attack when he casts the ultimate with 12 vigor stacks, and can go even further than that by an extra 30% if he is 6 stars, because in 6 stars he's able to have 14 vigor stacks instead of just 12. So if you can throw the ultimate of Sebas with at least 10 stacks or more, you're doing an incredibly high amount of damage to the enemy. That also nullifies defense, because every point of vigor nullifies 2% of the enemy defense. That is something really good to keep in mind. Now, maybe I didn't explain it very good because I already forgot how to explain these things because I haven't done it in a time. But now I'm gonna go to the awakening part. As you can see, I don't have many things on on his awakening levels because I don't usually play him. But something that I could recommend you a little bit is this. If you are gonna max Sebas or you want to max him, this will be my recommendation for the awakening levels on gems. As you can see, the square gem, the two slots, in fact, I have them with the attack gem, the one that increases it on a percentage. And that is because it's way better increase, for example, 1% of attack on a character that has thousands of points of attack than increasing it by 12 points, just like the normal attack rune would do. In this case, 30 points because it's level 2. So increase his attack because that is gonna make his chases, his assist attacks, and all of his skills, even the basic attack, do higher damage than usual. A little bit of effect precision is nice if you want Sebas to make use of the defense down skill or debuff that he can put. But if you have other characters that are able to lower the enemy defense, instead of effect precision, I would recommend you critical chance gems. This one, the might gem crit for the round gems in the 2 slots. And the rare gem, the one on the middle, I would recommend you the one that gives you speed. Because, Sebas is very, very slow, so you're gonna suffer on the late game because of that speed. Even if you pair him with characters that give speed boost or things like that, he's still gonna struggle because he naturally is very slow. Not only that, but as alternatives, you can even give him a basic attack, physical attack, or give him health. Both cases are really nice because he is a warrior, so he benefits from both of those stats, as he has A on HP and A on attack. So he will be a little bit more resistant if you give him a little bit of HP, and if you give him attack, you're going all out on his offensive capabilities, and mostly because of his ultimate skill. Now for the class specified, or the class specialized gem, I have the mage here because I'm showing you a mage, but you can either give him the one that increases the attack, again this one, the power gem attack, or you can give him the specialized warrior one that gives counter rate. And it's not bad because Sebas naturally has counter rate. So if you can give him a little bit more of counter rate, not only he will have more chances of doing that, that will also give him vigor, give him the chance to lower the enemy defense and do extra damage and so, but also will allow him to be more compatible with other teams that he is already compatible enough to be used on certain compositions, and those being the counter teams or the counter composition. Now, before I go to here the relic section, I'm gonna go for the arclights. As you can see, I don't have the exclusive arclight of Sebas. I have only this Memories by the Bonfire as a a placeholder. And the reason I have the placeholder, or this specific arclight as the placeholder, is because of the general effect. Increases the damage the next skill deals after a basic attack by 7.5%. And this is very, very easy to activate with Sebas because as soon as you attack and make him do an assist or a chase, he always goes and does a basic attack. And that, for some reason, counts as a skill and activates the general effect of the Arclight. And that means that by the time Sebas gets his first turn, his whatever attack that you're gonna throw, it could be the first active skill, the basic attack, or the ultimate, is gonna have the effect of the extra damage. And it's incredibly easy because after you use this Arclight or that effect, you can trigger another assist or another chase from Sebas the next round, and that will activate the memories by the bonfire again before he even has a turn. So every time Sebas gets a turn, he's already enjoying or benefiting from this general effect boost. And you can do the same if you want to max him out and don't have his Arclight. You can do the same by putting the Onward to Triumph Arclight that I have in Shelter, because it's the same general effect used with better stats on the Arclight. As you can see here, it increases the damage the next skill deals after basic attack by 21%. So you can either use the Memories by the Bonfire as the cheap alternative, Onward to Triumph as the legendary alternative if you have it, or go straight up for his exclusive Arclight. But Onward to Triumph is really, really good because that allows him to constantly have extra damage on all of his skills. And if you don't like that because maybe you want some variation or whatever, you can go with Battle for the Headwife. That will give Sebas attack HP on flat amounts and also an increase of attack on percentage that depends on the number of stars. And the general effect is different. This one increases the counter rate at level 1 by 25% and the counter damage by 25% upon entering battle for 2 rounds. And at 6 stars, the values go up to 50%, as you can see here the difference. But of course, it's only for the first 2 rounds. The other Arclights are for the entire game duration. So you can use Battle for the Headwife if you want to use Sebas in counter team compositions, and you might be like betting almost all in for Sebas, deleting the enemy during the first 2 rounds. But you can do it because it's a ton of counter rate. Even if it's at 1 star, it's already 25%, plus the extra 25 that Sebas has on his own, that is already 45%. And you can use other characters like Brain or like Coquiotos to give him even more counter rate. Like Coquiotos can give him another extra 20%. And that is already way more than enough for Sebas to be able to be, a working member of the counter team. Now, his exclusive Arclight. I'm gonna go here to the store and the Arclight section on the exchange. Show you what it is. Just in a moment. Here it is. A tiny margin. The effect is that his ultimate damage increases by 1.25% for every point of vigor that he's using, and killing the target with the ultimate will return half of the vigor points. So this is basically an all-out for his ultimate, and also, just like the Onward to Triumph, increases the attack and HP on flat amounts and then the attack on another percentage. And of course, that value of 1.25% can increase with each star, but the maximum value is 2.5%, which is not a lot. But because it scales with the vigor stacks, it means you can basically use that Arclight on Sebas at 1 star, put something like a termination set, put a really good relic, enhancements on him, and he's gonna be able to basically be able to one-shot heal most of the healers, most of the rangers of the game, like half of the mages of the game, and maybe some squishy warriors. He has the potential for a really, really good one-shot. And he's one of the first characters of the original characters that started with the game launch that had the potential for a one-shot. So he's one of the classic ones. Only thing is that he needs a lot of setup, like I told you before, by stacking up the Vigor and all of that. Now, Relic set, you can see that I have the Thunder set equipped on Sebas, which is not ideal, honestly, but is what I have as a placeholder. Personally, I would recommend you either go for Termination set or go for Vermare set. And if you don't know what those sets are, here it is. Termination set, the effect is that nullifies a percentage of the target defense, the physical defense, that can go from 20 to 30% depending on the quality of the set. And then also gives you critical chance, while the Vermare set also gives you critical chance, but the exclusive effect is that you're gonna gain from 20 to 40% chance, depending on the quality of the set, to reduce the skill cooldown by 1 round after the skill is used. So Vermare will allow Sebas to be able to spam his skills more often, and termination set will allow him to ignore from 20 to 30% of the enemy's defense. So I will 100% recommend you to use termination set. Sparkle quality, the maximum quality, the prismatic ones. So he's gonna be able to nullify 30% of the enemy defense. Plus, each stack of vigor is 2% nullified defense. At 3 stars, as soon as you get the character, he can have 10 stacks. So that's another 20%. And if we do the math, it's a total of 50% nullified defense, 30 from termination set, 20 from his vigor stacks at 3 stars. Then he can have another 2 stacks of vigor at 4 stars, and at 6 stars he can have another 2 vigor stacks, so he can have a maximum of 14 stacks. So he's gonna be able to nullify potentially 58% of the target defense with each attack of Sebas when he's at the max stacks of vigor. And if you put certain enhancements, he's gonna be able to nullify even more. But that is a little bit more to the RNG than what you can prepare. But that you can prepare, you can go all the way to 58% nullified defense. Now, I already said the relic set would grab all the relic sub attributes. I have these ones as placeholders just to give you an idea. The Thunderband, or in that case the headpiece, as you can see, have double S, double B. Double B is for the 2 kinds of defense, magical and physical, and the double S is for speed and HP. I tried to compensate when I tested this character his low speed with a little bit of extra points and HP, so he doesn't become a glass cannon and doesn't behave like a ranger, because that puts him at risk at, being one-shotted or two-shotted as soon as the game starts by enemies that are faster than him. So a little bit of HP will be nice. On the chest piece, I choose to focus a little bit more on damage. Damage boost specifically because damage boost is boosting everything, from the basic attacks to the chases to the assist attacks to the ultimate. Also a little bit of speed and effect resistance. Those were like extra, but the speed is nice. Here on the weapon, you can see I'm again focusing on the attack and damage boost. A little bit of defense and speed is not bad. And here on the base, you see a little bit of HP, a decent amount of magical defense, a little bit of critical damage resistance, and again damage boost. This is what I was using for Sebas when I tested him on my mid game, a little bit before the late game, and worked nice. He was able to survive the damage, he was able to stack up and do damage with the vigor stacks. But on the late game, it will not work quite as well. So what I will recommend you is something similar to what I have here on Narvel Gamma. You can see here, I have 1A and 1 attack on specific stats. 1A on attack, 1S on damage boost. That is really good. You're boosting everything that makes Sebas scale and his skills to be even more powerful. Here on the chest piece, I have a double A, in fact. I have not 1 but 2 A's. 1 speed and 1 for damage boost. That is really good. The 1 on speed to compensate his weakness, the 1 on damage boost to increase everything on him, and the S on defense so he doesn't get one-shotted by a Momon ultimate or something like that. So he becomes a little bit tanky. Here on the weapon, you can see again more speed, attack, damage boost, and critical chance. Critical chance, I will say, is not necessary unless you want him to go all-out glass cannon. Instead of crit, here you could put either magical defense or health. I would say health will be more useful. And on the base, you can see double A, double S. Double A is for speed and critical damage, to compensate his lack of speed. And the double S on magical defense, like I told you a moment before, and on attack. So all of his skills scale. If were up to me, what I will, recommend, or what will be number, or the order of priorities for the battle attributes and the basic attributes, I will say that your number one priority is damage boost, to increase all the damage from Sebas. Your number two priority should be attack, so you make all of his skills scale higher. Your number three priority should be HP, so he doesn't become a glass cannon and keeps his role as a warrior, unless you want to pair Sebas permanently with something like Clementine or Yoldabaoth or Anniversary Albedo, that are characters that avoid the enemies from, well, not avoid, but there are like anti-burst characters, and usually are really good at keeping your allies alive, even if they were originally gonna be one-shotted. But if you don't have those characters, or you don't want to pair them, you will need to a little bit. You will need to upgrade his HP a little bit so he survives. And your number four priority, it could be either more speed, effect precision for his defense down debuff, or you can go whatever else you think you might need, like critical damage or critical chance, or just something else like um, effect resistance, so Sebas doesn't get stunned as easily and nullified his turns by the enemy, things like that. He doesn't get taunted by Shizu and so. But I will say, damage boost, attack, HP are necessary. The fourth one could be depending on what are your priorities and your team compositions and so. Now, if you want to go the other option that I told you, glass cannon, Vermare and termination set are also good. They're really, really good. But the order of the, sub attributes in the relics is gonna be way different. And it's gonna be something like this that I have. And this is a real termination set that nullifies 30% of the enemy's defense. And you can see here, I have a little bit of physical defense, a little bit of attack, and double S for speed and critical chance. Here you can see another S on critical chance and an A on attack that is good, as well as a little bit more defense and effect precision. On the weapon you see even more critical chance, more damage boost with an S, and a little bit more of speed. And the last piece you see more critical chance, an S on attack, a little bit of extra speed, and critical damage resistance just as an added. Honestly, that is for a glass cannon character. You increase the chance of doing critical hits as much as you can. If you want other option, another example, here's another one. Triple S, but the important here is the S on speed and the S on critical chance, with also a little bit of HP there. Here you can see again, double S, one for defense, one for speed, an A for attack, and a B for critical chance. Here, triple A for critical damage, critical chance, physical defense, and A on attack. And the base, you can see more speed, a little bit more of attack, and damage boost. Those will be the ideal attributes for a glass cannon Sebas. Increase the critical chance as your number one priority. Then after your critical chance, you could increase the attack of the character. Then you are going to increase either his critical damage or his speed to compensate his lack of speed, and the critical damage will be, to increase his potential of one shot. And the fourth stat is up to you, to whatever the game gives you, because these are random attributes that appear, or whatever you can get him. If it's HP, it's nice. If it's something like physical defense, it's good. If it's something like what else could be? Like effect resistance, it's decent, it's acceptable. If it's effect precision, it's not ideal, but it's still good. So if you want to go glass cannon, critical chance, then attack, then critical damage, then you can go speed or whatever else you need. And if you doubt the stats or how much crit you can get, just look at this. Entoma gains 75.2% critical chance with the things that I showed you. And the Albedo that I showed you has a total of 91.7% critical chance. Almost 100% critical chance. And now, that will be for the two, the Warrior and, the one-shot glass cannon Sebas. The last thing is the relic attributes. And I'm gonna go very, very quickly to touch on the how it's called, the glass cannon version that I just told you. And for that, I'm gonna be using Made Albedo or Anniversary Albedo to show you. Some of the things you can give is punch for punch, because increases your critical chance from level 1 to 5, but from level 6 to level 10 also gives you damage boost. Damage boost is exactly the best stat for Sebas alongside attack. And then you can give him Unstoppable to increase his critical damage even more, and if you're lucky, his assist rate as well. Remember that he makes assist attacks, but those are guaranteed attacks, not based on assist rate. So if you give him a little bit of assist rate, you put on the table the possibility of him performing the assist attacks more than once per round. Now, Hot Pursuit, I will recommend at least level 1. At least level 1 on either version of Sebas, the Warrior or the Glass Cannon, because increases the damage of chase and assist attacks based on a percentage of his attack, and also can at max level nullify all the way to 40% of the enemy defense. And remember, we were able to increase his potential to nullify defense all the way to a theoretical 58% at max amount of vigor. And if we do that with his arc light, and we add the max level Hot Pursuit, that is 40%, we get a Sebas that at max stacks can nullify all the way to 98% of the enemy defense. That is incredibly high. Probably the highest number of that stat that I have seen on this game. Obviously theoretical numbers at this point, but still really, really good to see. Either way, if you're going Warrior, like I said at the start, with attack and so, or Glass Cannon with crit, Hot Pursuit is necessary, at least at level 1. So he actually does a high amount of damage with his chase and assist attacks. Now, for the Glass Cannon, aside of Punch for Punch, Unstoppable, and Hot Pursuit, I will tell you to use the ones that increase the attack. So let me see if I find one of those. No, they are not here. Let me change here. This character should have at least one, I think. Yeah, here it is. The last one will be Blade Drown. Blade Drown, because increases the attack on flat amounts, and from level 6 to level 10 does that on percentage as well. And maybe as an extra, if you want, and maybe if you're lucky, let me see where it is. The Stranded one. This one. The Stranded special enhancement. Targets inflicted with control effects receive more skill damage, from 6 to 12 to 20 to 30 to 40%. And that plays really well into Sebas' passive, because when allies attack an enemy that is stunned or frozen or taunted, he's gonna make a chase. And those enemies are the ones that count as control enemies, that are under control effects. So Stranded will make that the chase that Sebas does has even more damage, and if he has the Hot Pursuit, is gonna have even more damage. It's at least 40% from Hot Pursuit and at least 6% from Stranded at the lowest level. So now imagine if you upgrade this even higher. That is for the Glass Cannon, the Punch for Punch, Unstoppable, the Blade Drown, Hot Pursuit, and Stranded. Now, if you're going for the Warrior class, the Warrior version of Sebas, the one that I was talking about almost all the time, the one where you increase instead of critical chance, critical damage, and so, you increase attack, you increase the damage boost, you increase the health, the speed, and then whatever else you can. If you go for that is more classical Sebas, I will still recommend you Hot Pursuit and Stranded, because he's still gonna be making use of them, and having extra damage on a warrior is always nice, because there is gonna be some times where your main damage dealer dies and your warriors and tanks have to finish the job, so extra damage is nice. But instead of recommending you Unstoppable and Punch for Punch, instead of that, I will be recommending you Endless Cycle a little bit, because it's gonna increase his HP in flat amounts, and at level 6 to level 10 also in percentage. But I will also recommend you a blade round. Again, let me see if I have it right here to show you really quickly. No, I don't have it here. Let me go again with a character that I remember that it has it. Here it is, Blade Round. So I would recommend you Hot Pursuit, Stranded, uh, Endless Cycle for health, Blade Round. Blade Round, I think, should be your priority number one, at least until you get it to level 6. Because it gives you attack on flat amounts from level 1 to 5, but from level 6 to level 10, aside of giving you attack on flat amounts, also increases it on a percentage. 8% unless it's level 10. 10 at level 10 is 20%. That is really good. And that will max out all the possible damage that Sebas can do on, his normal attack, his chases, his assist attacks, his normal, active skill, and his ultimate skill. Those will be my recommendations for Sebas. There's also another enhancement that is about the Thunder, that he makes extra critical damage to enemies with shock, but I will not recommend you that one unless you're playing Sebas constantly with a shock team member, preferably either Entoma or Narveral, and Sebas is going glass cannon build. But if you're not going those very specific compositions, then I will not recommend it, and instead max out the other enhancements that I told you. Now, for the last part, the teams and compositions. First thing is early levels, mid levels as well. If you want to play him, always pair Sebas with Yuri, with this Yuri in specific, DSR Yuri, because of her skills. Not only is she a nice tank on the early game, and it's a decent tank on the mid game, but also she looks like she's made to constantly buff Sebas because of the passive. You can see here the big sister of the battle mates. She gains an increase on defense and so, but here is the important part. Yuri has 50% chance of having one member of the Pleiades with the highest attack launch an assist when she attacks. Available only once every round, and she prioritizes Sebas in the assist when he is present. And the character that does the assist is gonna do extra damage equal to 10% of Yuri physical defense. And because Yuri has a ton of physical defense and her passive increases it even more, that means that Sebas is always gonna do an assist when Yuri attacks, and he's gonna do extra damage. So now imagine all the early mid game, you can use Yuri to defend the first turn and then use another Pleiade member to attack. Sebas is gonna go perform an assist. The next turn of Yuri, you use the impact blow to stun one enemy of importance. That stun enemy either is gonna provoke or trigger the chase from Sebas to do damage, or is gonna activate the passive of Yuri that is gonna trigger an assist from Sebas, and that assist is gonna give him extra damage. So either way, you're triggering a chase or an assist from Sebas on a controlled target that is gonna receive more damage from the enhancements of the relics that I told you. Is gonna give Sebas a really good amount of vigor stacks, and of course it's gonna damage the enemy a ton. And the next turns that Yuri has, where she has to use the normal attack, she still has the chance of triggering Sebas to attack, to do an assist, because if the ultimate trigger the chase, then her next attack can trigger the assist. Or if her ultimate trigger the assist, then you can use another character to attack the enemy that Yuri stunned to trigger the chase of Sebas. So you constantly trigger the chase or the assist, or even both. You can do both, and you still have a tank, and it's compatible enough because you have a tank, you have a warrior, so someone defends, other one does a little bit of damage and also receives a little bit of damage, and then you can combine any member of the players that you want. If you want this Shizu to be there to inflict critical damage on the enemy, to put bleed on them, you can use it. If you want Narveral to be putting shock on the enemies, dispelling their buffs and doing area of effect damage, you can do it. If you want Solution to be silencing the enemy, taking away their buffs, doing extra assist attacks, you can do it. Any member of the pleiades is compatible. Even characters like this other Yuri is compatible there. And for example, let me show you another pleiades member. This Nave is really good at executing low health enemies. You can use Sebas to lower the enemy health with the assist, the chases, use his ultimate to kill one or leave it low on HP, and then Nave will kill it and it's gonna perform an extra attack on someone else. You can use this Lupus Regina on the early game and on mid game, so you have a nice healer on the team that is also a Pleiades member. She's gonna be constantly healing all the team, putting effect resistance, and even if she's silenced or something like that cannot heal, she does a basic attack that will have a chance of triggering Sebas to do an assist. You can use Pestonia as the healer instead on the late game, so she gives 2 meter boost to Sebas because he's very slow, to make Sebas attack silence the enemy because of her attacks, of her passive, sorry, and you still have a really nice healer that is very tanky as well because she has S on HP. You can use also this solution because of her ultimate to do area of effect damage, lower the enemy speed or 2 meter boost, and then give high tier attack boost to the ally that plays right after her, like here, for 2 rounds, and hopefully that could be Sebas with a little bit of setup, and increases damage even further. You can also use this Lupus Regina to do a ton of damage, and the ton of damage is gonna transfer from one enemy to another when they die, and she's gonna proc, Sebas. You can use Sebas as a counter team member and Pleiades member with this Lupus Regina because both characters can do counter. Both characters are from the Pleiades team. You put something like Yaldabaoth to increase the potential of the Bleed synergy that is also able to counter, and then you put another Pleiade to keep the composition. So you have a mixed composition of Bleed, Counter, and Pleiades. You can also use this Shizu as your main tank to gain the first turn, constantly control the enemies, lower their magical defense, and reduce the cooldowns of Sebas. Also, you could use this Nave to do incredibly high amounts of damage, lower the enemy defense, and trigger Sebas to attack right after her, and the attacks of Sebas are gonna trigger her ultimate that triggers her passive skill, and that does a ton of damage to all the enemies. You can also use this Entoma, the SSR version, to do the composition that I told you earlier. Yeldabaoth, the Limited Lupus Regina, this Entoma, and Sebas. Uh, the only thing is that she will not be able to counter attack like the rest, but she's gonna be doing incredibly high amounts of damage, and she's gonna make Bleed not being able to be dispelled. She's gonna make it undispellable. She's gonna make Bleed a forced status effect, a forced damage over time effect that the enemies cannot dispel. And she's gonna perform a lot of assist attacks, so even if your Sebas do not persist, she's gonna do it. Then you can use also this Entoma.